All right, review starting. So we will start out with the cycle of duels. And I think these are enemy color or friendly color.
I don't know at this
I
point.
don't either. I can't remember. You got red black, blue black, red green, green white, and blue white. And their condition is they enter tapped unless you control two or more other lands. They tap for one of each color. Yeah, these are going to be the dual lands of the set. They're not bad. Like C plus B level duels in my opinion.
Yeah.
So after that we have Hostile, which is an aggressive name in my opinion.
Oh yeah,
But
I actually really like this card.
I kind of do too.
card.
It's a land at mythic rarity. Taps for colorless. Has one tap, sacrifice a creature, put a soul counter on it. Then, if you have three or more soul counters, remove those counters and transform it and untap it. You can only activate at sorcery speed, and it transforms into Creeping Inn, which is an artifact creature, a horror construct. Whenever it attacks, you may exile a creature from your graveyard. If you do, each opponent loses X life, and you gain X life, where X is the number of creature cards exiled with Creeping Inn. And then four colors, you can phase it out, and it's a 3/7. Holy
Yeah, it's
shit.
it it actually is really strong. The
Yes,
first time I read it, I was like, "This is a medium card," but reading it again, it just does a lot.
it does. And the flip condition doesn't seem to be crazy because, I mean, you're only going to put this in like black white sacrifice because that's the sacrifice archetype. But I mean,
Right.
it's a one mana sack outlet, two mana actually because you got to tap this land. Um, and then you get a 3/7. It's not the smallest thing. You could drain them, of course, over the course of the turn. I mean, the phasing out thing is pretty good. It's expensive, but they have to point a removal spell at it. I guess you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
What would you
Next
grade
we have
this?
what would I grade it?
Yeah,
Probably
hostile.
in like the black white sacrifice archetype. Probably like A plus, but everywhere else, like high C or low B. Like there's not a lot of looking at the cards and like the archetypes that are kind of being pushed. There's not a lot of decks that you just want to like throw like your little guys under the bus to this land.
Mm-hmm.
And since it can only be activated at a sorcery speed, like if it could be activated instant speed, I would have a different opinion.
Oh yeah,
But at sorcery speed, it's probably C in everything except for the sacrifice deck.
yeah. I'm a little lower. I think it's like B to B plus in the sacrifice deck, just because it is technically two mana and sorcery speed, and that hurts it. But you can get it to work. Should do some good things for you.
Right. And the best part about the card is it doesn't have like a specified text, so you can there are a lot of token generating cards.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll
Um,
get to those later, I'm sure.
yeah. Next we have Field of Ruin. One tap to add colorless. Two tap sacrifice to destroy non-basic land and opponent controls. Each player searches for a basic land and puts it on the battlefield. This isn't really a limited card. Um,
Mm-mm.
I don't see a time I'd ever want this in my deck.
No, even though we just talked about a mythic land that could be busted in certain decks, I wouldn't even board it in then. I would just
Right.
try to board in some removal spell. So I'm on an F for Field of Ruin for limited.
Oh, I'm at the bottom. It's like the worst card in the set in limited, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I would,
it's not good. And constructed, obviously it's role player.
yeah, sometimes. Other times it's
Yeah.
meh.
Yeah. So don't get fooled. This card's not good at limited. Next, we have Evolving Wilds. This card is good and limited. Tap, sacrifice it, search your library for a basic land, put it on the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. This is pretty standard mana fixing for limited. Take them to C level to probably B level, depending on how much you need mana fixing. And you always, even in 2-color decks, you always want at least one. Limited mana bases are bad mana bases. They're not good. And just giving yourself a little bit more consistency will go a long way. I have it at like a C, but C's are good cards.
Yeah, C is definitely a card I would play in my deck. Like Evolving Wilds is it's just phenomenal when you get one.
I agree. Next we have Stuffed Bear. It's a 2-mana artifact, like common. Oh yeah, Evolving Wilds is at common. Field of Ruin is an uncommon. It's a Stuffed Bear, 2-mana artifact at common. You can pay 2 mana, and it becomes a 4/4 bear artifact creature until end of turn. This looks like a F. This just looks so
Yeah,
bad to me.
it's worse than Mimic, and Mimic was unplayable in the D&D set.
Right. Yeah, I just can't see a situation where this is what you need. Even as a control deck, you're gonna find better ways to win the game than this thing. So it's a F for me. And what grade are you giving it?
F for sure.
Yeah.
It's not playable.
No.
It's just too much of an investment. Now, if it was a 2-mana 2/2 bear that couldn't attack, I'd play it all day.
Right.
Or
Yeah.
like 4/4 bear that couldn't attack, I'd play it all day.
Mm-hmm.
Next, we have Silverbolt 1. This is an artifact. It's 1 mana. 3. Tap, sacrifice Silverbolt. It deals 3 damage to target creature if it's a werewolf. Is dealt damage this way, destroy it. I actually like this card. I like artifacts like this. It's playable, but it's not like super strong.
Yeah, I do too. 4 mana to kill most things, and then if you're playing against werewolves, it just kills whatever you wanted to. Yeah, it seems really strong to me. And at a common,
Oh yeah,
so you're gonna be able to pick at least this up as your removal
yeah.
slot.
It's gonna be at the bottom of the pack.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Next we have. Oh well, I would probably rate that at like a C. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's a C. Uh,
Next we have Tickling Needle. 1 mana artifact. As it enters the battlefield, choose a name. Activated abilities with the chosen name cannot be activated unless they're mana abilities. Great card in constructed, not so much in limited.
no, yeah, I agree. Absolutely horrible and limited. Even in some scenarios where this is at a rare, by the way, you have this in your sideboard and your opponent has some planeswalker. It's just too big of a hit to take a card out of your deck and put this in it. Play this card, name the planeswalker, and then they just don't draw the planeswalker. You just
Right.
kind of wasted a card. I have it at an F.
Yeah, I definitely have it at an F as well.
All right, next we have Mystic Skull. It's a 2-mana artifact at uncommon. 1, tap it, add 1 mana of any color, and then 5, tap it, transform it, and it transforms into Mystic Monstrosity. It's an artifact creature construct. Lands you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color, and it's a 5/6. This is an expensive investment, and it's not a mana rock, it just filters mana.
Right.
Um, and you do have to tap it when you transform it, so there's no like transform it before blocks and then block with it. It's gonna be transformed as tapped. And then lands you control tap for any color is a powerful ability. I think I have this card at like a C minus to a D. Unless I'm playing some 3 or 4 color, 5 color deck, and I just like really need something to float some mana and maybe eventually get a threat. Because a 5/6 isn't small, but you have like a 7 mana investment minimum if all you're going for is the 5/6.
Right.
Yeah, it's probably a D for me. I'm not gonna try to put this in my deck.
Yeah, it's definitely not something I want in my deck. I I have it as a D as well. Um, it just when I first read it, I thought it added any color of mana, and I was like, "Wow, this is really good."
You're right, yeah. I do too.
And I reread it, and I was like, "Oh, this is not very good."
Next we have Moon Silver Key. It's a 2 mana artifact, an uncommon. As one tap, sacrifice it. Search your library for an artifact card with a mana ability. Just a lot of specifications. Or a basic land. Reveal it, put it in your hand, and shuffle. Um, this is not Traveler's Amulet. I think this card is much worse. 3 mana to get a basic land to your hand is not something I want to play, and I can't really see any artifacts that have a mana ability that I want to put in my hand either. So I think I'm giving this card a F.
Yeah, it's not very good. I have it at F as well. Um, Next we have Jack O' Lantern, 1 mana artifact at common. Uh, one and tap, sacrifice it, exile one target card from a graveyard and draw a card, and then one exile Jack O' Lantern from your graveyard. Add one color or 1 mana of any color. Um, I don't think I'd ever want to play this in my decks either. I like the card, but it doesn't impact the game really. I guess it can hit disturb cards,
Yeah, flashback.
but it still doesn't do anything.
Yeah, it is nice that you will always still have like the card. You'll never be down a card. But the same way, this does some things that like maybe I want to sideboard it in. Maybe if once again, maybe if I'm like a 4 or 5 color deck, I bring it in as like a weird cycler that can fix my mana for a turn. But yeah, this is like a D minus to F for me. I really don't want to put this in my deck.
Right. Next we have Crossroads Candle Guide. 4 mana common. Artifact creature Scarecrow. When it enters the battlefield, exile up to one target card from a graveyard, and then two to filter mana. So you spend 2 mana to make any color of mana. It's a 3/4. Um, this is another card that I could never see playing in my deck. It doesn't really have an upside, and a 3/4 for 4 is not very well statted.
I
So
agree.
I would just like a D or an F.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably an F. I just don't want to play this card. It's not the worst, but you just don't end up short on playables anymore these days. So
Oh, definitely not.
as a sideboard
I
card, I might bring it in just to like have something if my opponent has some crazy flashback card, but I don't want to. All right, next we have a really, really cool card, the Celestis. It's a 3 mana legendary artifact at rare. If it's neither day nor night, it becomes day as the Celestis enters the battlefield. As tap, add 1 mana of any color. So this is a mana rock. 3 tap it. If it's night, it becomes day. Otherwise, it becomes night. So this helps you flop day and night. Activate only as a sorcery. Whenever it becomes night, whenever day becomes night or night becomes day, you gain 1 life, and you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card.
So how does that work with like the cards that have day bond and stuff? I guess it doesn't because they have a different condition, right?
No, I'm pretty sure it works exactly how you'd expect it to. If it's night and you have a nightbound werewolf that's flipped and you make it day, it would flip back over. If it's day bound,
Awesome. Okay, that's
right?
better than I thought it was.
Yeah, yeah. This is a way to actually control whether it's night or day, sort of. It is at sorcery speed, but it kind of adds to it because the new werewolf mechanic is dictated by spells on people's own turn. So you can activate this to like make it day from night, and then cast spells, and it would still be day when it kicks back over to your opponent. And then yeah, you can loot with it. It's a mana rock. You get a little bit of life gain. It's a fine card, and I think I have it at like I wouldn't put it in every deck, but I think I still have it at like C plus to maybe B minus. When I want this card, I feel like I'm really gonna like it.
Right. I have it at B minus. I think it's a very strong card. And now that I know that it works the way I want it to with the werewolves,
Hmm.
I think it's a lot stronger.
Yep. And then just to talk about day and night for a second, because it's pretty confusing. Because it doesn't work quite the ways the old werewolf rules. If it's night, uh, they cards with night sides will enter with the night side. It's a pretty big change. So you can have,
Oh wow.
yeah, you can have your cards enter pre-transformed if it's night in their nightbound. So like the werewolves that have daybound, nightbound, if it's night, they'll enter on their flip side. But like a delver won't enter flip because it's not daybound or nightbound.
Right.
And then as this distinction is really important if it's neither day or night, because the game starts as neutral. It's not day nor is it night. And you need some type of effect to make it day. I think I don't I think it has to start at day, but I can't remember exactly. And I'm pretty sure if a daybound card enters, it becomes day.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So this is why we'll see other cards like this where it says if it's neither day or night because the game starts at I guess no time zone.
right. Okay.
But so what this does mean is if you have werewolves, you have the mana, you can make it night and then just have your werewolves enter your turn on the night side. And then if you only cast one of them, it will stay night when it kicks back over to your opponent. Because day to night is no spells cast, and then night to day is two spells on the same turn by the same player. Oh, no, that's completely wrong. Night Day to night is two spells on a player's own turn. So even if you cast two instants at the end of your opponent's turn, if they've only cast one spell, it stays day. Or stays night, I mean.
Right.
Alright, got that out of the way. Next, we are going on to multicolor cards. Pretty excited to read these.
Do we want to start at the top of them?
Uh, uh, yeah, we could
Or
just
just
start right here. Yeah, just keep going up. The uncommons are going to tell us kind of what these color combos want to do, and this is one of my favorite parts about a limited uh review and new cards is like seeing kind of what they're telling us to do with these cards.
right.
So first up,
Uh,
go ahead.
no, so first up we have Witherhorn's Blessing, which is blue and a green. Sorcery, uncommon. Put a +1/+1 counter on up to one target creature you control. Tap up to one target creature you don't control, and that creature does not untap during its controller's next untap step, and then flashbacks for one green and a blue. I like this card.
Oh yeah.
I thought it fought things because usually when they say put a counter on something and then target something, fighting, but it's just a counter and then an ice.
Yeah, yeah, I really like this card. Um,
Yeah, it's a pretty nice tempo card. Um, and then having flashback is really decent as well.
yeah, just imagine a turn where you just do it both at the same turn. Take out your opponent's best two creatures, make your best or worst creatures a little bit better, than just kind of crunch in.
Yeah. Uh,
I
it
probably,
being multicolored, for blue and a green. Um, it's a good card, but I kind of want to rate this like at a C, not any higher. It's definitely not like a busted card. Um, for what it costs, it and its effect, it's a pretty decent card, and I can see myself playing this. I would never first pick this card.
Right.
I would never like just force this archetype because of this card, but it is a decent card.
Yeah, I'm higher on it. I think I'll probably give it a B. I think this card is going to be really annoying, and when you're playing against a blue green deck, you're going to constantly have it in the back of your mind. But yeah, obviously this isn't a first pickable card. Uh, I guess I would probably want to pick it up at like pick 4 or 5. But yeah, let's still have it at a B. I think this is gonna be a really good card. Next we have Wake to Slaughter. This is a 5 mana, 3 a black and a red, a rare sorcery. Choose up to 2 creature cards in your graveyard. An opponent chooses one of them. Return that card to your hand. Return the other card to the battlefield under your control. It gains haste and exile it at the beginning of the next end step. Then it has flashback for 4 black red. I like this card.
I do too.
You can it's really expensive, but like you can just target one thing and your opponent has to get your opponent chooses one and you return that one, so it goes to your hand. But like being able to just get something back onto the battlefield that's gonna hit in and get a card back from your graveyard to your hand and then flash it back. Seems like a
Right.
pretty easy 2 for 1. It's expensive, don't get me wrong. You're gonna want it in grindy games, but I like it. Probably have it at like B minus to C plus because I could definitely see a lot of games where this card's gonna be uh kind of bad.
Yeah, I have it at C plus. I love that flashback is like has returned. It's one of my favorite mechanics, and
Agreed.
like you said, only being able to target one thing is going to be great for those grindy matchups when you're both low and in top deck mode.
Hmm.
Um, and then I can also see a lot of matchups where your opponent just went really wide early, and you're on the back foot and it does nothing. So that's why I'm putting it at C plus.
Yeah, there's a small amount of context clues. They did put this at rare, so maybe they expect that this type of effect is going to be a lot more obnoxious than expected. But I like C plus. Also worth noting, it does exile it. It's like the older reanimating text. You don't sack it, so unfortunately, no free sack trigger or anything like that.
Next, we have Vampire Socialite, black red for a vampire creature, like vampire noble creature, uncommon, with menace. And when it enters the battlefield, and if an opponent lost life this turn, put a +1/+1 on each other vampire you control. And as long as your opponent lost, or an opponent lost life this turn, each other vampire you control enters with an additional +1/+1 counter. Um, I love this card. It's Thraben. What is that? Is it what is that card called? The human one.
Oh, Thalia's Lieutenant.
Thalia's lieutenant. Yes, it's Thalia's lieutenant for vampires. Um, if you lost life,
Hmm.
or if your opponent lost life. Um, and it's an uncommon, so a lot of the theme of this is vampires and werewolves.
Hmm.
So I expect this card to be pretty decent. I actually have it at B plus.
Yeah, I have it at B. It's a great card. I mean, it's super flexible. Obviously, you're gonna want to try to get the Thalia Lieutenant effect um, and get as much value out of this as you can. But like, if you need to play a 2/2 with Menace on turn 2, this is still gonna get the job done. Plus, it works great in multiples, and this also kind of does well at facilitating itself, at least on the last text box where like you play this on turn two, attack with it. If you're on the play, they probably aren't going to be able to block it, and then your next vampire you play is going to enter a little bit bigger. Yeah, I have it at a B. This card's great. Next we have Vadric Astral Archmage. One blue red. Legendary creature human wizard at rare. If it's neither day or night, it becomes day as this enters the battlefield. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost X less to cast, where X is Vadric's power. When day becomes night or night becomes day, put a +1/+1 counter on Vadric. Uh,
The sort of low C because how they worded the last line of text.
yeah, it won't enter with another counter on it.
Yeah. If
Right.
it entered as a 2/3, I think this card would be awesome. But it's always going to be a 1/2 on enter the battlefield.
Yeah, I don't know how often red blue specifically is going to be swapping between day and night. I mean, with this on the battlefield, you could just pass. I guess if you have enough instances, you can play this on turn four. You play your land, pass. It becomes night. And you get a counter, and then all your instances cost two less. That actually seems really good.
That does seem really good. So I
Um,
guess that's the way they intended it to be used, like
right.
for tempo. But since it does not enter the battlefield, and it kind of doesn't do anything off of the bat. Like if you just play this on three and it dies, then you kind of just feel bad that this was your three drop.
Oh yeah, I have this at like a probably a C plus because it can do some work, but yeah, like you said, it's gonna be a 3 mana 1/2. It's not gonna attack or block well at all. It doesn't affect the board. It just if I'm blue red spells, I'm probably gonna be like looking to pick one up, but I don't think I'm playing this in a just any blue red deck. Maybe it's just a C because it's just like specifically blue red spells is where this is probably gonna be the best. It's gonna be pretty
Right.
mediocre otherwise.
It's also not a card I would ever first pick.
Oh no, yeah,
It's just like there are some other cards that we'll be going through that I would definitely first pick that are multicolored. This is not one of them, especially because, like you said, it doesn't impact the board.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree.
Yeah, I have it at probably a low C. Um, Next we have Unnatural Moonrise, red and a green for sorcery and uncommon. It becomes night, and until the end of the turn, target creature gets +1/+0 trample, and when it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card and then flashback for two red and green. Um, I love this card. It it just you get to pump a guy, and if they deal damage, you get to draw a card. It gives them trample, but the best part about this card is it says it becomes night, um, which for a lot of the werewolf cards that I've seen that I really thought were pretty decent commons and uncommons, their their flip side is definitely much stronger.
Oh yeah, that's normally how werewolves are designed. Uh, I agree though. If the first thing is it has to be day first.
Right.
So if you haven't played a day bound or something that makes it day, the night thing won't happen. But if you can, you're flipping your werewolves into something that's bigger, plus pumping it, gains trample, and then you can draw a card. I have this card probably at like still a C just because it's a pretty big blowout
If
when they
if
use
you're gonna
removal.
die,
Yeah. Unless your deck has like some discarding. Basically that's it. I don't think red green has that much mill. But like if this is just in your graveyard and you could just like flash it back and like kind of get that effect, then it goes up a little bit more.
right?
But yeah, it's a fine card. It's probably like a yeah, I call it a C.
Yeah, I've got it as C. I definitely will play this card. It's not a first pickable card, but
No, definitely not.
if I've drafted a few green cards or a few red cards, I definitely look to pick this up at 4 or 5, or maybe even like later than that.
I agree. All right, here's one of my favorite cards in the set. Tovolar Dire Overlord. One red green. It's a legendary creature, human werewolf at rare. It's a 3/3. Whenever a wolf or werewolf you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Beginning of your upkeep, if you control three or more wolves and or werewolves, it becomes night. Then transform any number of human werewolves you control. And it has daybound. And it also transforms since it has daybound. The nightbound side is Tovalar, the Midnight Scourge. It's a werewolf legendary creature. Whenever a wolf or werewolf deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. And then it has Kessid Wolf Run. X red green, target werewolf or wolf you control gets +X +0 gains trample till end of turn. It's nightbound. It's a 4/4. I
I
love this
love this
card.
card.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is obviously you have to be werewolves, but it's just an A in the werewolves deck, right? Like this is everything that you want to be doing. It helps you draw cards. It helps you flip all your stuff,
It's
and
also just like very first pickable.
yeah,
Like
the pack has to be missing pretty good commons and uncommons, just because I don't like to pick a multicolor card first pick. But
right.
it's gonna do some work if you can flip it and it stays night for a good amount of the time. Just wolf running your werewolves every single turn, you're gonna kill your opponent. It also can it can target itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, this card's great. I have it at A.
Yeah, I have it at a B plus. I do think this card's really really strong, and I expect to lose the Kessig Wolfern quite a lot,
Right.
like I did in the original Innistrad. I think that was the card that beat me the most in draft was Kessig Wolfrun. Um,
Right.
Next we have Teferi, who slows the sunset. So we got Teferi again. He is 2 mana and white and a blue. Legendary Planeswalker Teferi at a mythic slot. His +1 is choose up to one target artifact, up to one target creature, and up to one target land. Untap the chosen permanents you control, and tap the chosen permanents you don't control, and gain 2 life. And then his -2 is look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, the rest on the bottom in any order. And his ultimate is -7. You get an emblem that's with untap all permanents you control during each opponent's untap step, and you draw a card during each opponent's draw step. And he starts with 4 loyalty. I think this card's pretty good. Um, the +1's sweet. You get to like port a land and port their creature, and maybe like untap your like mana rock or something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the -2 is pretty decent as well. You just get to look for like a thread or an answer, and then the -7 is very strong.
Right.
Um, Definitely wanting you to play on your opponent's turn is what it's implying.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I put this card at like an a low A, because it is multicolored, and it doesn't protect itself too well, but it is a decent card.
Yeah, yeah. I think I have this about A-B+. There's just so much you could do with the +1. Like you said, you could tap one of their creatures down. You could tap like a land down. They only have like one blue source. You're playing around a counter spell, something like that. You could also get some extra mana if you have like a mana dork plus a land. Float mana plus untap your things, make mana again.
Right.
2 life isn't nothing to sneeze at. And then yeah, it protects itself. I think pretty decently because it doesn't tap one of your creatures.
Oh yeah, it does untap one of your creatures.
Um, Anticipate neg 2. It's that's pretty good to find things you're looking for, land drops, threats, reactionary spells, stuff like that. The emblem is good. Um,
Yeah, it is.
it's pretty good. Doesn't affect the board, but I think you could probably manufacture a board state where you don't need it to affect the board. This is definitely a planeswalker though, where you want to tick him up to 8 before you ultimate, because it's going to be much better to have all this stuff going on while he is still in play.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm at
It's
probably
definitely
A minus.
it's yeah, it's definitely a constructed card, but it is very good in draft.
I agree. Next, we have Sunrise Cavalier. One red white human human knight, uncommon, has trample and haste at a 3/3 for 3. All right, that's pretty good. If it's neither day or night, it becomes day. Whenever day becomes night or night becomes day, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. This is just a B. This is just a good 3 drop.
This is
Like,
this is the best red white 3 drop possible. It is very strong. I have it in A. I think it's probably one of the strongest uncommons in my opinion. I'm a big fan of this card.
yeah, I agree. I usually let cards. This is going to be a little bit contradictory to what I said earlier, but normally A's I will consider first picking. I won't first pick this card. That's why for me it's a B to B plus. But yeah, it's just a good card. Like it's good
This is a
rate.
card I will first pick. It
Yeah,
is
I probably
it is
wouldn't.
my play style.
I can see that.
It
It
just goes sideways.
is important to note, like we said on a card earlier, um, when it enters, it will not get a counter because it only makes it day if it was day or night or nor night. So it just becomes day. It doesn't go from night to day. But then in you know after that, if you could have spells or creatures, or I guess if eventually you just pass without doing anything, which doesn't sound good when you're red white, you can trigger it.
Or if your opponent passes without doing anything, it triggers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what's gonna make night and day really interesting, because
Right.
you're already kind of thinking about how your actions are going to be good for your opponent, but with night and day, you really need to think about, well, if I pass and make it night and get this little bit of bonus, are they just going to play like two werewolves or a werewolf or whatever? But anyway, yeah, I like it. I like it at a probably a B. You said you like it at A?
Yeah, this is
No.
definitely this is one of the few multicolored cards that I've seen recently that I would first pick, especially with it being like an uncommon. Um, Next we have Storm Skeller Grelix. Uh,
Storm Skrillex. Yep.
three, yeah, 3 blue red for Drake Horror uncommon flying. Instants and sorceries you cast cost one less, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, it gets +2/+0 until the end of the turn. So it's a larger Wee Dragonaut.
Right.
It's an okay card. It's definitely a C in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I have it at like a C plus, close to B range in the blue red deck. This is just a signpost card for that deck. It's just the flyer that makes you want to cast a bunch of instants or sorceries. Makes it a little bit easier to cast. Yeah, I'll probably go C plus. It's gonna be obviously if you're blue red deck, it's gonna be a card you're looking to pick up. Is a 5 drop. It's worth noting, but this is just kind of the card that the blue red deck is gonna want.
Next we have Slogurk, the Overslime. For 1 blue and a green, is a legendary creature ooze at a rare with trample. Whenever a land is put into your graveyard from anywhere, put a +1/+1 counter on Slogurk, the Overslime. Remove 3 +1/+1 counters from him. Return it to its owner's hand. When it leaves the battlefield, return up to 3 target lands from your graveyard to your hand. He's at 3/3. I love this card. This is my favorite card in the set. Um, Now, in limited, I don't really know how you're ditching a bunch of lands to make this very good. Um,
I think blue green is the self mill archetype.
oh, really now?
Mm-hmm.
It may be good. It may be really good. But right now I have it at a C. I love the card. I like what it does. It reminds me of Life from the Loam. in a
Right.
way, which is a phenomenal Magic card. So I think this is right now. I'm gonna give it a C. My rating on it may change as the format goes on, but I do like this card.
I think I have it at a B just because if blue green can do the self mill thing, this is going to be a 5/5 or a 6/6 pretty easily. You can protect itself if it gets up to a 6/6. Uh, I don't really know what to do with the last line attacks. Return 3 lands to your hand from your graveyard. Um, that seems more like maybe like a constructed thing to do, but this 3-man 3/3 with trample that if when you're just nonchalantly putting cards in your graveyard, it's gonna get bigger. Turns some of the instant speed self mill things into kind of like a combat trick in a way. Yeah,
Ooh, yeah.
I probably got it at a B.
Yeah, like I said, it is my favorite card in the set just because of what it does, but I have it
Yeah.
at a C currently.
Next we have Siphon Insight, blue black instant at a rare. Look at the top 2 cards of target opponent's library. Exile one of them face down. Put the other one on the bottom of that library. You may look at it and play the exile card as long as it remains exiled. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast that spell. It has flashback for 1 blue black. I honestly have no idea how to rate this card. um,
I can see this card being extremely like painful to play against. Like they get like your best card,
right.
but at the same time, I don't think I could ever see myself like drafting a deck around this card and like pick one or two. Now, if I'm playing like a blue black deck and I get past one, I'll play it. Um, but there's a lot of RNG when it comes to cards like this, especially in limited, um, because you never know what it's going to be. Like the power level of cards that I guess like the higher power level cards are very unlikely to hit with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably have this at a D, honestly.
Yeah, I probably have it like, yeah, I probably have it like D plus to C minus. It is a 2-for-1. It's a very expensive 2-for-1 because you actually have to cast the spells. Um, so like, it's okay. It's not the worst thing ever. It's moderately cheap. The first instance being 2 mana, the next instance being 3 mana. Easy for
Right.
you to do other things while also doing this. Uh, I could definitely see this card being much much worse though. I guess it just depends. I don't know. There's a bunch of good cards in the set. Surely your opponent put good cards in their deck. Sometimes you're gonna hit 2 lands with this and
Yeah.
not be able to do.
Then you're gonna feel really bad, but then your opponent plays it and they hit your two best cards.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes.
It's one of those cards.
Yeah, I'll be gracious. I'll give this a C minus. All right. The next one, excuse me, is a familiar face. Sigarda Champion of Light. 1 green, white, white. So double white, green, 4 mana, 4/4, flying trample, mythic rare, angel. Legendary creature. Humans you control get +1/+1. And then time to talk about another keyword, Coven. When Sigarda attacks, if you control 3 or more creatures with different powers, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a human card from among them, put it into your hand, and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. From now on, I'm going to shortcut. Coven is when you control 3 creatures with different powers, 3 or more creatures with
Right.
different powers. So I'm just going to say Coven from now on. But this card's great.
Oh yeah. This is. I think this is one of the better bombs in draft as well. Um, there are a lot of humans, and flying like a flying trample beater for 4 mana is actually really good. And then if you do get the coven uh, effect, it is pretty good to just draw another creature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Great for rate. 4/4 tramp, 4/4 flyer for 4 is fantastic. Green white is the color pair that has a bunch of humans. It makes human tokens, so the Lord text is going to be great. And yeah, like if this didn't have the Covenant part, you'd be like, this is a good card. I'm going to play this card. I'm going to try to draft a bunch of humans, but I'm going to try to play this card. And now this could also just like be a 2-for-1 on top of already being so good. I think I have it at A.
Yeah, I have it in an A. They're definitely there's no downside to the card, right?
Right,
Like it doesn't have a drawback, and it's a 4/4 for 4, which is my favorite part of the card with flying and trample. So I have it in an A as well.
right. Yeah, I would first pick it just because I don't like first picking multicolor cards. But if I have, you know, obviously if I have a good white card, good green card, I'm picking it up. What if I just have like a good green card or a good white
Yeah.
card? I'm just gonna pick it up if it makes my way.
All right. Next is Sacred Fire for red and a white, instant and an uncommon. Sacred Fire deals 2 damage to any target, and you gain 2 life, and then it has flashback for 4 white and red. I love this card. Um, it's a mini lightning helix with flashback.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, I agree. I love this card. This is fantastic removal for the early game. It's can go face, so it's a okay fallback plan.
yeah, I definitely have this as like a C plus, maybe a B. It's not like ridiculously good. It's not the premium removal, but it is a good card.
I agree. I have it about at a C plus. Like you're gonna be happy with it when you put it in your deck, but like you wouldn't first pick it or anything like that.
All right, next we have Root Coil Creeper,
Oh yeah.
blue and a green, uncommon, creature plant horror. Tap to add 1 color of any mana. Tap to add 2 colors of 2 mana of 1 color. Spend it only to cast cards from your graveyard or spells from your graveyard. And then blue and a green, exile Root Coil Creeper, and return target card with flashback you owned from your graveyard to your hand.
From
Oh, from
exile.
exile to your hand.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yeah, this card is fan fucking tastic.
Yeah,
This
it is
is amazing.
really strong.
This is
Uh,
go ahead.
just I like 2 mana mana dorks unlimited, and this one just being able to like speed up a flashback spell or return like your best spell from exile to your hand is really strong.
Yeah, this is literally the 2 mana mana dorks on steroids. Like if you need to curve out with creatures, this is gonna help you do that a turn ahead of time. This is gonna help you flashback stuff. You get enough of them, maybe you splash some off-color flashback card, and then on top of that, when it's the turn 8 or turn 6 or 7, and a 2/2 is no longer relevant, well, you just get one of those spells back. This is an easy B plus for me, I think.
Oh yeah, I have it at B plus as well.
This is definitely if I first pick a blue or green card, this is the card I'm gonna look for in the pack in the next pack immediately every time.
Right.
Next we have Rite of Oblivion, white black sorcery, an uncommon. As additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a non-land permanent, exile target non-land permanent, and flashback for 2 white and black. This card seems great. Like it's in black white. That's the sacrifice
Yeah,
colors.
this is definitely one of those key uncommons for the archetype. I'm a big fan of this card. I like single target removal that can be used again.
Right. It's this is a great thing to do with decay tokens, which we haven't actually gotten to yet, but black does have some decay in it. Black white is a sacrifice, like I said. White has some token making. I think if I'm in black white, I think this is probably going to be a B. This just seems really nuts for that deck. It already goes with the game plan and gets rid of any threat that's a non-net permanent, which is any threat. All right, next we have Rite of Harmony. Green white instant at rare. Whenever a creature or enchantment enters the battlefield under your control this turn, draw a card. Flashback, two green and white.
This is a good magic card.
Yeah, this is I can't believe I'm blanking on the name. Uh
Glimpse.
yep, 2 mana Glimpse of Nature. I'm not too sure how good these types of cards are in limited. Obviously, if you could pair it with something that makes 2 or 3 tokens, you just draw 2 or 3 cards. Um, you're kind of. I guess my problem with it in limited is it's a little bit of work to get a ton of value out of it. I don't think you're going to be like comboing that much with this type of card.
Right.
Um, it's I'm pretty excited for it for constructed, but I my instincts say unlimited just to give it a D. Like I don't even think I want to try to use this most of the time. Just seems
Yeah.
not worth it. Uh,
In limited, for sure, it's definitely a lot harder to do anything with than in constructed formats. I have it at a C minus. I think that there are a few things that make a few tokens that you could spend this like 2 mana and then play like the werewolf who makes tokens or there's a few cards that I think it could be super strong with, but it's definitely not something I would first pick or look to put in my deck specifically.
yeah, I mean, we have we haven't went through. We got a lot more cards to go. I can definitely see this pairing well with token generators. It may be a deck that just actually I'm not too sure green white is gonna randomly be milling themselves. And the flashback's kind of expensive. But yeah, I agree with everything you said.
All right, next we have Rim Carolo Stalwart Slayer for 1 red and a white, a legendary creature, human knight, the rare slot, flying and haste. If a spell would deal damage to you or a permanent you control, prevent that damage. Oh wow! If a spell would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent that an opponent controls, it deals that +1. It's a 2/3. This is way better than I thought it was. I thought the first part said negate only one of that damage as well. I like this card a lot.
Yeah, this seems just great. Like probably kind of want to give it an A. Kind of, I'm just gonna say B plus. This is just a good card though. Like it's it's gonna make your. I guess maybe it is an A. Like if you pick enough Sacred Fires that turn Sacred Fire into actual Lightning Helix, there's a bunch of damage spells in red, and then
Hmm. Yeah, it's
it's
definitely a good card.
just a 3 mana 2/3 flying with haste. Like yeah, I'd
I
have
will
a
let
B
you.
plus.
I will let you get this next one as well.
All right. Old Stick Fingers. X green black for a legendary creature horror at rare. Star star. When you cast a spell, reveal cards from the top of your library till you reveal X creature cards. Put all creature cards revealed this way into your graveyard, then put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Old Stick Fingers power and toughness are each equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard. So it's a little bit of self mill, and it still kind of functions as an X creature because you keep revealing until you hit that number of creature cards. So it's a 5 mana 3/3 that mills you for a little bit. Then when you put more creature cards into your graveyard, it's gonna get bigger. Pretty good with Disturb. It shrinks itself when you use Disturb.
All right.
I really don't like this card though, honestly. Like,
I like this card as like a commander card, but
yeah,
I will never play this in limited. I don't think.
yeah. I think they probably like contextually. If I have some, I guess there's some really good disturb cards, and I want to like increase my odds of hitting it, of it like them being in my graveyard. Maybe I'll play this card, but it's 5 mana 3/3. Just doesn't seem to be that much worth it. And then if you're not using the creature cards in your graveyard, well, you just put three creatures in the graveyard. Like that's not exactly a good thing. But it kind of works in the color pair. You know, the color pair wants to kind of kill its stuff or its opponent's stuff. It's not unheard of for creatures to just naturally be in the graveyard. Maybe it's actually more like a 4 mana 5/5 in the nut scenarios, but I think I still have this at like a D. Like, I don't think it's gonna actually work out the way it looks that often.
Yeah, this is an F for me. This card is just not very good.
I agree.
All right, next we have Ludovic, Necrogenius for blue and a green, or not blue and a green, blue and a black. A legendary creature, human wizard for a rare. When he attacks or enters the battlefield, so when he enters the battlefield or attacks, mill a card. X blue blue black black exile X creature cards from your graveyard. Transform Ludovic. X can't be 0. Activate only as a sorcery. And when he transforms, he turns into Olog, Ludovic's Hubris, legendary creature zombie for whenever as this creature transforms into Olog, it becomes a copy of a creature exiled with it becomes a copy of a creature exiled with it, except his name is Olog and it's a 4/4 and a legendary creature in addition to its other colors and types, and then put any put +1/+1 counters on Olog equal to the number of creature cards exiled with it. And that's a lot of text.
It's a novel for sure.
So basically, he becomes a clone of something. So he's a mimeoplasm on a flip card. So he
Right.
becomes one copy of it, and then he gets counters for the other creature for the amount of other creatures exiled.
Right. And then it's a base.
Four
Oh,
four.
well, it says X can't be 0, so it's 5 mana at the minimum to in a creature card from your graveyard to make this into a 5/5 zombie. Not terrible. Only at sorcery speed. Um,
Yeah, it's definitely not terrible.
but when it enters you mill, when it attacks you mill, it's a 2 mana 2/3.
Yeah, it's very important.
I'm not sure. Like this, such a weird card.
I have this at a C plus or B minus. I think this card's actually pretty decent in the blue black decks.
Hmm.
Um, and then you know they kill something with a great ETB effect, and would it get the ETB effect because it no because it's not
No,
entering the
yeah,
battlefield.
yeah. It just becomes that creature.
Ah,
So you want to exile stuff with like crazy static abilities.
right. Yeah, definitely. Probably a C plus for me. I do like this card a lot. Um, it is a novel of text on the back.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff. Yeah, I'll probably go with a C plus. It is a mill enabler, and that's probably something that is relevant. And then, yeah, become a 5/5 when you want it to. Next, we have Licia. I don't know how to pronounce that. Forgotten Archangel. Two white, white, black. Legendary creature angel at rare. 4/5. Has flying and lifelink. Okay. Whenever another non token creature you control dies, return that card to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. This is an A.
Yeah,
This
this is
is.
an A plus. The first time I read this card, it was like that Vince McMahon meme where it's like reaction just gets better and better. That was my reaction when I read this card. I thought this card was phenomenal.
Yeah,
Uh,
this
this is
is.
definitely a card I could see myself first picking as well. Even though it is multicolored, I do think its effect is pretty strong.
Yeah, yeah, it might be worth it to first pick it. It's still an A, even if I won't first pick a multicolor card. This is just like your opponent plays this and you go, well, I have to kill that thing, but then they attack with their creatures, and you're like, well, if I trade off, then their stuff just goes back to their hand. My stuff gets exiled. That could be a big deal, especially if you have disturbed creatures.
Yeah.
Yeah, this card is pretty good.
All right. Next we have Kessig Naturalist for red and a green, a creature human werewolf at an uncommon. It's a 2/2. When Kessig Naturalist attacks, add a red or a green until in a turn you don't lose his mana as steps and phases end. And he has Daybound, and his flip side is Lord of the Uvenwald, creature werewolf. Other wolves and werewolves you control get +1/+1, and then when it attacks, you get the same mana, the red or green, until steps and phases end, and it's a 3/3 with Nightbound. Uh, I like this card. I think this is a really good uncommon. Um, it's not first pickable, but if you are in the werewolf deck and later in the packs, you may be wanting to pick up one of these because it is a lord.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is probably like a B minus. It's the front side's pretty good. You play this on turn two on the play, attack with it. If they don't have a two drop, this is just like a nut draw, right? They don't have a two drop. They're just going to play a four drop, and they're going to be behind really quickly. And then eventually you'll decide to let it flip. And yeah, like you said, you have a lord with presumably your other wolves and werewolves. Card's pretty good. Next we have Catdilia, Dawnheart Prime, green white legendary human warlock at rare, 1/1. Protection from werewolves, pretty relevant. Human creatures you control have tap, add one mana of any of this creature's colors. And then she has an activated ability of four, or they have an activated ability of four, green, white, tap, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control.
So this is actually another one of the few multi. There's like, I think there's only like when I read the set earlier, there's only like 5 multicolored cards at first pick, and we've seen like 3 of them, 4 of them. Um, I think this card's actually really good. It's a 2 mana dork. It has protection from werewolves. Um, and then later in the game, you can just put counters on your guys at instant speed. Uh,
Yeah,
I rate this card as like a B+.
yeah, I
It
could
also enables you to. Oh, sorry.
go ahead.
It enables you to play like more than 2 colors as well, because there are humans in basically every color.
Um, it it wouldn't enable it, but it makes it slightly easier, I guess, because the creatures tap
Slightly,
for
yeah.
1 mana of their color. I think I like this card. If you have the humans, yeah, this is probably. Hmm.
Even in green and white, I think this is still just good.
I really want to. Really, I think I'm just gonna go with the C. The reason being is it's gonna die to any removal spell.
Fair.
It's a 1/1 itself. It doesn't engage in combat that much. It is a 2 mana dork though. Like that's definitely relevant. And protection for werewolves is relevant uh, to a degree, but like your opponent's gonna have like more than one werewolf. So I guess you get to block like the best one. Um, I don't know. This seems like you need a lot to happen, but yeah, C plus to B is probably where this card will probably perform. Like the base rate is it's a 2 mana dork, and then if it lives, it's gonna cause problems for your opponent.
Right. I used to rate these cards way lower, but I just like things that give you like faster mana and limited that are playable, like on two like 2 mana dorks. I think are actually really good. So I think this card's really good.
Yeah, and I guess this card isn't good if you don't have other creatures, but the board stalled and you draw this on, turn 7 or whatever, it's still going to be pretty good there.
Right.
Next, we have Join the Dance. Green, white, sorcery, an uncommon. Create two 1/1 human creature tokens, and then flashback for 3 green and white. Yeah, this card's great.
Yeah, it's a C plus to me, honestly, for what it does, and spells like this with flashback are really good. Uh, I just think making two guys for two is really decent.
Yeah, it's gonna be really good. It'll be pretty just like a good card and just like green white. And then if you have a lot of human payoffs, it's gonna be fantastic. Also, I love the art, big midsummer vibes.
Oh yeah, that great movie. um, yeah, it's like I said, C, B, B minus, C plus. It's a playable card. It's not first pickable, like most of these like multicolored cards. They're not really first pickable.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I have it at a B in the human stack and probably like a C, C plus otherwise.
yeah. Um, Next we have Hungry for More. I love this card. It's a black and a red sorcery at uncommon. Create a 3/1 black red vampire with trample, lifelink, and haste. Sack it at the beginning of the next end step, and then it has flashback for one black and a red. I love this card. It enables sacrificing. uh, and it's kind of like a ball lightning with lifelink.
Yeah,
So
I agree. I love this card. These cards usually play out a little bit better than they look, and this one poses a lot of questions to your opponent. Um, you play this attack with a 3/1. If you have mana left over, they have to think about what's going to happen if I let it hit me, and then what's going to happen if I trade with it. Are they going to play some morbid black card and get a lot of advantage, or if I let it hit me, are they going to play some other red black thing and get a lot of advantage? And then, if you do this twice, your opponent has to also think about like if they just take it twice, that's a 12-point life swing. They've lost 6 and you've gained 6. I think this card's probably a B.
yeah, I have it at a B. I think this card is pretty good, especially with decay. I think decay is such a good mechanic.
I agree.
Uh, Next we have Hallowed Respite for white and a blue sorcery to rare. Exile target non-legendary creature, and then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. Uh, if it entered the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Otherwise, tap it. And this is a sorcery, by the way. And then it has flashback for wood, blue, and a white. Um, I actually don't like this card because it's not an instant.
Yeah, I agree. I have to have some pretty killer enter the battlefield abilities to want to do this at sorcery speed. Um,
Right.
it's probably a okay card if you can have a little bit of self mill, like most flashback cards. If you could just incidentally get this as a card in your graveyard, it's gonna be fine. But yeah, this is nothing crazy. Probably C minus to D for me.
Now, if this was an instant, I would have this at an A.
Yes, this would be a really good card at
This
instant.
would be the best like interaction in the set, in my opinion. But since it is a sorcery, it is definitely a D for me. I like the effect. I don't like the sorcery speed.
Yeah, I agree. Next we have Grizzly Ghoul, 2 black green, zombie bear uncommon, trample 4/3. When it enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter for each creature that died this turn. Um, yeah, this card's great. Just a solid C plus for the Morbid deck. It is each creature, so if you have a card trade for opponent's card, it enters a 6/5 with trample for 4. Morbid has played out not great in past sets. It's not as easy to enable as you think it is, but I think this card, along with some other cards, along with Decay,
Yeah,
maybe
I think
made
it's
it to
way
where,
stronger with
yeah,
decay. Because they do just leave and die.
yeah, and they get sacrificed. Uh, I had this at like a C plus.
Yeah, I have this at a C plus. This is a pretty decent uncommon.
Mm-hmm. Next, we have Colorless Harvest. This is black, green, sorcery at rare. Create X 2/2 zombie creature tokens with Decayed, where X is half the number of creature cards in your graveyard rounded down, and then it has flashback for 3 black and green.
This is a really swingy late game card.
Yeah. So just touch the Decay. A creature with Decayed can't block, and when it attacks, sacrifice it at the end of combat. So these aren't uh, the zombie tokens that we are used to. These are going to play very differently. These are going to be more like a resource to an aggressive plan. This isn't going to be create 3 blockers or whatever.
Yeah, this is definitely create 3 guys to pressure my opponent. And
Um,
when you look at it that way, it is definitely not as good as the card looks. When you look at it as, hey, this is a way to pressure my opponent instead of a way to stabilize.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you gotta look at it that way. I think um, that's why they got to play with this and make the first part of it super cheap, because turn 6, cast this for 2 mana. It's not unlikely to get
Get
one or
like
two
one or
two
two
twos.
guys. Yeah.
Um, I think I got this at like a C minus though. I have to
Yeah,
really be committed for it.
it's definitely not high on my list. Like I can see this card just like swinging me a game though by just making like 5 dudes to put on a clock,
Yeah,
but it's not a card I would rate very highly. Probably D, honestly.
yeah, yeah. I was thinking about it. I'll probably go down to a D. The get 5/2/2s isn't gonna happen all that often. Well, I mean, it does have flashbacks, so maybe it can, but the fact that you do have to be particularly aggressive means that this card isn't gonna do what you want it to do most of the time.
Right. All right. Next we have Galvanic Iteration for blue and a red instant. Uh, at a rare slot, whenever when you cast your next instant or sorcery spell, copy that spell, and then you may choose a new target for the copy, and then it's 1 blue and a red flashback. Um, Cards like this are fun, but they're not very good. It
Yeah.
is cheap, but usually when you're twin casting something unlimited, it just isn't as powerful as it would seem.
No, yeah, yeah, I agree. It's not. Even like in a format like Strixhaven that had cards like Magnum Opus, um, you weren't
Yeah.
taking the fork cards just to like try to get 2 Magnum Opuses. Some people maybe had that, got to do that, but it was usually with Rutha, which was a creature and had way more versatility to it than cards like this. This card's a F for me. I just don't ever want to put it in my deck.
Yeah, this is an F for me as well. And speaking of twin casting Rutha, that's I'll tell you something about that later. That's crazy. Uh, Next we have Florian Voldaran Scion for 1 black and a red. He's a legendary creature, vampire noble, and a rare. First strike with 3/3 at the beginning of your post combat main phase. You look at the top X cards of your library. X is the number of total life lost by an opponent this turn. Exile one of those cards and put the rest on bottom of your library in any order. You may play the exiled card this turn. This card's sweet. Uh, Pretty good in the red black deck we were talking about earlier with uh, the red black vampire. And since it triggers at post combat main, this card I rate way higher. Like, because it incentivizes you to be an aggressive strategy. And I don't really know what to consider those effects. There's plenty of them, but like getting to exile a card from your library and cast it has been really strong and limited recently. So I'm rating this to like a B plus.
Um, 3 mana 3/3 first strike is nothing to sneeze at. with the capability to get some extra cards out of it. You do have to play it that turn. That can get awkward. But yeah, I'll probably give this a B. Like, this is gonna be one of those effects that um, your opponent has to stop you from doing anything with, and then it doesn't have to attack itself, so you could easily attack with a couple of flyers and get cards that way. All right, next we have Flesh Taker. White black creature human assassin, an uncommon. When you sacrifice another creature, you may gain 1 life and scry 1. And it has 1, sacrifice another creature. It gets +2/+2 until the end of turn. And it's a 2/2. Things to note, this has none of the restrictions that we've seen lately. This is as many times as you could do it, and then you could do it during your opponent's turn. Um, it does cost mana, but it just costs 1. These cards do tend to play out a little clunkier than you wish they would, but this is still great. Like, this is exactly the type of, you know, sack outlet you want if you're going to be white black. I'd probably give this a B.
Yeah, I'd give this a B as well. It's a pretty decent card, and it probably has the best art in the in the set.
Oh yeah, this art is great. And the flavor text, maybe a Natuko Husk reference.
I think it is a Nantuko Husk reference.
Another thing about this card is this card goes in the early game. It's a card your opponent doesn't want to block because you're just going to sack something and eat their creature. And in the late game, it's a card that they have to block or you're going to kill them.
Yeah.
Next, we have Faithful Mending. White, blue, instant, and uncommon. You gain 2 life, draw 2 cards, and discard 2 cards. That has flashback for 1, white, and a blue. Um, I think if you have a lot of flashback and a lot of disturb, I think this card could probably be worth it. The 2 life is pretty relevant. Just churning through your deck is pretty relevant. I probably still have it at like a C because if I don't have a ton of flashback or disturb, I don't really want to be doing this
Right.
because it is card disadvantage unless you get to flash it back. Then like I think you're technically up a card, or maybe you're even on cards, but it's just a lot of work to get to a neutral state. But could be worth it if you have a lot of stuff you want to put in your graveyard. What rating would you give it?
Probably a C minus. Like you said, it is a lot of work, and it is not. It's card disadvantage. Um, I think in constructed, this card's probably really fine, but in limited, I this is not really a card I want in my deck unless I have like 12 disturb creatures or flashback cards.
Yeah, I agree. It has to be a pretty good number like that. What do we got next?
All right, next we have Diagraph Rebirth for 3 black and a green. It's a sorcery speed uncommon. This spell costs 1 less for each creature that died this turn. Return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield, and then flashback for 5 black and a green. This is the best reanimation spell we've had in a format in a while. Um, and the last time we really had a reanimator strategy in limited was M21, the blue black deck. Um, so I'm happy to see a good reanimator spell actually. And having flashback is pretty good. I put this at like a B.
Yeah, I think in just an average green black deck, I'd probably put it C to C plus. And then if you got some good stuff to bring back, I'd probably put it a B. And this is just not going to be hard to cast for 4 3 mana. And then if you can cast it for 2 mana, you really are going to feel like you've gotten away with something. And then yeah, the late game, if you draft bombs, your opponent's going to want to kill it. And then if you bring it back with this in the front half and they kill it again, well, you can bring it back again with the back half. Yeah, I agree. Probably C plus normal decks, and then like if you could really hone in on it, probably a B.
All right, next we have Dire Strain Rampage. 1 green and a red. Sorcery rare. Destroy target artifact, enchantment, or land. If a land was destroyed this way, its controller may search their library for up to 2 basic lands and put them onto the battlefield. tapped and shuffle. Otherwise, its controller may search for one basic land. So if it destroys anything besides the land, they only get one, and put it on the battlefield tapped and then shuffle. And it has flashback for 3 red and a green. This is not a limited card at all. And so I do like it, but I'm gonna have to rate this at like a D or an F.
Yeah, I'm probably more looking at it as like a naturalized that giving your opponent's land does matter, but like when you need a naturalize, you need it. Um,
Right.
I maybe will main deck this when I'm goofing off and do crazy 3-color things. Like blow up my own lands.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. It's like a maybe like a sideboard D plus to just a straight F. Okay, next we have Devoted Graphkeeper. White blue, human peasant uncommon 2/1. When it enters the battlefield, you mill 2 cards. When you cast a spell from your graveyard, tap target creature you don't control. And then it has Disturb for 1 white and blue. Disturb is when this card is in your graveyard, you may cast it transformed from your graveyard for the Disturb cost. And it gets disturbed into a spirit that's a 3/1 flyer that can only block other flyers. And then all Disturb cards have this text: if Departed Soulkeeper would be put to a graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. This
I like
card's
this card.
yeah, it's just like a C plus to a B. Like it facilitates your strategy. It becomes like a real card. Like a 3/1 flyer is not something your opponent could just let sit there.
Like this card compared to Faithful Mending, this card is very playable because it is 2 creatures and
Right.
it is fueling your strategy. While Faithful Mending's you're down a card.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Maybe the blue white deck there's some synergy there with Faithful Mending and this card get the tap some stuff down or tap some stuff maybe. But the Stirrup is going to be a pretty good mechanic. You always get a 2-for-1. This one puts other cards you want your graveyard in your graveyard, and then when you do trade it off, it just becomes a beater in the air. I probably have it. Yeah, I think it's at a B.
Yeah, I have it at about a B as well.
All right, next one
Next,
is Denick Pious Apprentice. White blue legendary human soldier 2/3. So 2/3 for 2. Nice. As lifelink, cards and graveyards can't be the targets of spells or abilities. And then it has Stirred for 2 white blue. And it will come back as a 3/2 flying spirit soldier that says whenever one or more creature cards are put into graveyards from anywhere, put into graveyards from anywhere, investigate. This ability triggers only once per turn. Investigate, of course, means you get a clue. And then exile it if it goes to the graveyard from anywhere. Yeah, this card looks great.
yeah, it's definitely pretty good for the blue white deck. I really like the flip side, and we haven't seen many investigate cards yet, so I'm happy to see this card.
Yeah, I think this card's I'd probably give this like a B to a B plus. Just in general.
Yeah,
2 mana, 2
yeah, I'd
3
give it a
life
B.
link. 2 mana, 2/3 life link. And then it does say whenever more creature cards are put into graveyards from anywhere. So if your opponent self knows, you get a clue. And if it's a creature,
Right.
it's pretty good. Alright, what do we have next?
All right. Next, we have Dawnheart Wardens. 1 green and a white. The creature human warlock, uncommon. Vigilance Coven at the beginning of combat. If you control 3 or more creatures with different power, creatures you control get +1/+0 until the end of the turn. And this is a 3/3. This card's okay.
Yep, this seems like pretty textbook C level card. You're gonna put in your deck. You're gonna be happy with it if you get the Coven. Get some extra damage in. But a 3/3 for 3 with Vigilance is pretty good.
Yeah, I'd put it at probably a C.
Me as well.
Next, we have Croaking Counterpart, 1 green and blue, sorcery rare. Create a token of a copy of a target non-frog creature. Except it's a 1/1 green frog, and then it has flashback for 3 blue and a green. And this is a sorcery. I like the card. I like the art, but it's not very good in limited. I'd probably put this at a D because the token you're making is a 1/1, and it's not very big stat wise.
Yeah, I like the art. It's cute. It's a joke, but I think I have this at a F. I don't think I ever want to try to play this card.
Right.
Uh, I have to have. I guess there's another rare that's in green that we haven't gotten to. That maybe if I have more cards of that, it's like really good into the battlefield abilities. Maybe I'll play this card, but I really don't think I will.
Right. And then next we have Corpse Cobble for blue and a black instant at uncommon. At an additional cost to cast a spell, sack any number of creatures and then create X XX blue black zombie with power with menace and with powers total powers X, you know. And then has flashback for 3 blue and a black. I like this card. I
Yeah.
like it. I like things that enable sacrifice. You have a bunch of guys that are like, unable to do anything 1/1s or like just make a large guy at instant speed.
Yeah, you get a zombie with menace with power toughness equal to the number of creatures you sacrifice to it. Seems like a fantastic thing to do with decay tokens because the sack for them is a trigger, so you can attack with them. If they choose to take the damage, you're gonna sack them anyway. Might as well make a 4/4 or whatever.
Yep, I'd probably give this a C plus.
Yeah, probably at a C plus. It's gonna feel like a B sometimes, and then sometimes it's probably gonna feel like a D. These type of cards are usually pretty high variance, but I think in general it'll probably be around C, C plus. Next we have Can't Stay Away, white black sorcery rare. Return target creature with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains if this creature would die, exile it instead. That has flashback for white, black, and 3. So 5 mana. Um,
I don't know how I feel about this card.
I don't either. There are some really good cards that have mana value 3 or less.
Yeah, there are quite a few.
I think I'm probably putting this at D. Most of the time, it probably isn't going to be worth it, but sometimes it'll be okay.
Yeah, I had this at D as well.
I think it just depends on what you bring back, what your range is to what you could do with it. Next, we have Blade Stitched Scalb. Got blue, black, zombie, soldier, and uncommon for 2/3. So 2/3 for 2 again. Other zombies you control get +1/+0. Yeah, this looks like a C plus to a B. This is exactly what zombies wants to be doing.
Yeah, especially with all the decayed zombies.
Yeah, the tokens definitely become a problem with your 3/2s. You're just crunching in for 9.
Yeah.
Like the first hit your opponent can take, and then after that they really have to think about whether or not they're gonna die. Works great in multiples because the signpost uncommons in this set aren't legendary, so cards like this, well, that buffs each other. So if you have 2 of them, you just get 2/3/3s for 2.
Right. Yeah, I have this at like a C plus.
Yeah. Next we have Arlen, the Pax Hope. 2 red green legendary planeswalker Arlen, Daybound. Comes in with 4 loyalty. +1 is until your next turn you may cast creature spells as though they had flash, and each creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter. Those clauses are separate, so you can plus this and just play stuff on your turn if you think that's better. The neg 3 is create 2/2 green wolf creature tokens. And then if it becomes night, it flips to Arlen, the Moon's Fury. Literally planeswalker Arlen with 4 loyalty. +2 is add red green, and then the 0 is until end of turn. Arlen becomes a 5/5 werewolf creature with trample, indestructible, and haste.
I like this card a lot.
I do too. Yeah, if you have like a super heavy creature deck, this just seems like the type of card you definitely are going to be wanting. Um, on for turn 4, it's 4 power worth of bodies if you neck 3, and then the next turn you can just plus and pass, flip to night, cast some creatures. They come in with counters. This just seems great. I probably in a super creature heavy deck. This feels like it could be a A. The backside gives you mana to do more things and just becomes this beater that is hard to stop.
Yeah, I have this at probably B plus.
Yeah, that's where I think I really want to land with it. Um, it's really contextual. You have to have a lot of creatures, um, but it's good enough that it is probably going to be B plus level on every deck you put it in. What do we have
All right.
next?
Next we have Arcane Infusion, blue and a red instant. Uncommon, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal an instant or sorcery card from among them, put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in any random order, or in a random order, and then flashback for 3 blue and a red. This is actually a pretty good limited card.
Yeah, this
Uh,
looks fantastic for blue red spells. It triggers your spells matter cards and finds you more things to trigger them.
yeah, I probably have this at a C plus.
Yeah, I like C plus to a B. I feel like there's definitely going to be times when you're drafting and you're hoping to just find one of these at any time.
All right. Next, we have Angel Fire Ignition, 1 red and a white. Sorcery at a rare. Put 2+1/+1 counters on target creature. It gains Vigilance, Trample, Lifelink, Indestructible, Haste until the end of the turn, and then flashback for uh, 2 red and a white. I like this card a lot.
Yeah, this is
Uh,
a beating.
it
This
just
is
does
just
everything. It becomes a mini Acroma.
yeah for the turn.
Um, I'd
But
probably rate this at like a B. It's a pretty good rare. I would not first pick it because it is very creature reliant. Like, you definitely want to be like a low to the ground deck when you're playing this card.
mhm. Yeah,
So
I agree with B. I think you could be a mid range deck and play this card. This is just a hell of a swing. You put this on
yeah,
a 2/2, you know, a flyer is obviously great, but put it on like any 2/2 and attack with it. They can, blocking it, they can soak up some damage, but you're going to gain a bunch of life. You're going to eat a creature at least, and then you can just flash it back the next turn.
right.
This might actually play out to be like an A. This just seems nuts, but I think I'm going to give it a B. And then right now, I'm going to stop the